The Bliss Business Podcast, the show about empathy, connection, and consciousness in business. Today's episode is brought to you by Zero Company, your paid search, social media, and programmatic ad experts.
Welcome back to the show, everyone, where we explore empathy, connection, purpose, and how they transform businesses from the inside out. I'm Steven Sakach with my co-host, Mike, as always, and our special guest today. So research shows that companies rooted in conscious capitalism outperform the market by a factor of 10x or so over a 15-year period. This was all documented in the book of Firms of Endearment, if you haven't read that. As AI shapes industries at lightning speed these days, the question sometimes is not just what we can do with AI, but how we can ensure innovation serves humanity. And we're going to dive into some of that with our guest today. Mike, introduce our guest.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and our guest is the perfect person to be able to talk to us about this subject. So our guest today is Kevin Surace. He is a Silicon Valley innovator, serial entrepreneur, CEO, and futurist, and often recognized as the father of the AI virtual assistant, which I'm looking forward to hearing more about that, Kevin. Kevin has been named as well as the Inc. magazine's Entrepreneur of the Year, a CNBC Top Innovator of the Decade, a World Economic Forum Tech Pioneer, and was inducted into the RIT's Innovation Hall of Fame. He holds 95 patents worldwide and has led pioneering work on technologies ranging from the first cellular data smartphone, if you can even think back, that far, and the first human-like AI virtual assistant to soundproof drywall, high R-value windows, AI-driven building management, and generative AI for QA automation, which we know is very, very needed. His work has even shaped the retrofits of the Empire State Building and the New York Stock Exchange. And in fact, as well, Kevin has an upcoming book that you'll definitely want to check out, The Joy Success Cycle. It explores how shifting the way people think and act daily really leads to deeper fulfillment and sustainable success. So far from sort of your typical AI discussion, Kevin's perspective blends technical expertise with humor, vision, and a deep commitment to human centricity and human-centered progress, which we know our audience loves to think about and talk about. So, Kevin, with that, welcome to our show. We are delighted to have you.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm not sure I can live up to all that intro, and plus I've got to be funny now too, so I'll do the best I can.
So, Kevin, you've seen, obviously from the intro, innovation kind of from multiple angles over, some period of time there. And
you mean decades and decades?
I'm not saying anything like that. I try to avoid that, but yeah, I'm feeling that too. I'm like, decades ago when I blah, blah, blah. So, but how do you define conscious capitalism in today's business landscape? And why do you think it might be critical in the age of AI?
Well, look, I think capitalism is an important piece, right? Just start there. What is capitalism? It means that we're building companies to build value for our shareholders and our employees. And that's because many of our employees are stockholders as well. They're shareholders. So we're trying to build value, right? And thank goodness for capitalism, because without it, the countries that don't allow it actually don't usually progress very far. So we know this works. And then you get to the question of, are you going to be the mean SOB CEO that runs a horrific culture that doesn't care about its customers or its employees? Are you going to be someone that promotes humanity and promotes what's good for your employees, as well as what's good for the business, as well as certainly what's good for your customers and your vendors, right? And there's no question. We talked about this a little bit earlier, that this sort of capitalism that includes the human element has outperformed those that didn't. Period. Full stop. Right. And this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. Yet at the same time, in Silicon Valley, we struggle with the following, because people will always bring it up. Well, I'm going to pick on Larry Ellison. I shouldn't do that, but I'll pick on it because not conscious capitalism, right? Known as a certain kind of manager, and you could work for him for 3 or 4 years, and then you couldn't deal with it anymore as an employee. Customers would get in arguments with him. I mean, that's what you have. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but then you say, yeah, but he made a couple $100 billion, right? So there clearly are examples of people who manage companies in a pretty horrific way. And I think people like to point those out and say, well, look, they manage in a horrific way. Yes, there are examples of it. There are a lot more examples where people looked at their employees as part of their team. They looked at their customers as part of their team, and that we're all in this together. So I think when you just look at it and say, I have to live 40 hours, 50, 60 hours a week with these people, they should be people I like. They should be people I want to have a coffee with, people I want to have a drink with, people I want to solve problems with, and people I'm going to listen to and appreciate their experience. And the same is true with customers. These are people I want to work with. You choose your customers wisely also. And then when customers see that, they want to work with you. I'd say the number one reason people probably buy from any of my companies is I have great people, I have great salespeople and all of that, but usually they'll meet me and we'll just get in a whole conversation, for example, about what's the industry look like in 10 years and how does that impact things and what's your family and and you start to know each other and then you build trust and then people want to work with you. So,
yeah.
So I think your premise is correct. This works a lot better than the other way, and it's the only way I run companies.
And then when it comes to AI, one of the things that kind of worries me, having been on the advertising side and working with AI for 10, 15 years or whatever, we're always optimizing toward like a singular goal in advertising there. And so now that we've got this generative AI that we're introducing into all kinds of businesses, I worry that we're going to be optimizing toward a singular goal of profit with AI at some point, and forget about people, forget about planet in that process, and run them over if we're not careful.
So you bring up a lot of good points. Look, I have wrestled throughout my career of bringing technology to market, because most technologies we bring to market takes some jobs away. There were people who used to do that job. And this is true with the wheel. When we invented the wheel, there were people who used to carry things on their back, and then all of a sudden there's a cart, right? We invented the car, and it put people with the horse and buggy out of business. You can just go down the line. It's true with Excel, Microsoft Excel. When it came to market, it wiped out slews of people that used to do ledger books with pencils in finance. Yet the smart people learned Excel and became strategic people right there. And so we have been doing this for a long, long time. The PC showed up on the desktop. Some of us are old enough to remember the secretarial pool, literally a pool of humans that would type whatever you asked them to. And then the PC got on the desktop, the pool disappeared. Well, again, we've been replacing humans. But while doing so, at least in the US, we've actually always created more jobs, different jobs, but we've always created, there are more people employed today than there have been probably roughly in the history of the United States. How can that be? We've been replacing jobs. So what I've come to sort of settle on is what we're doing is we're replacing tasks. And we do this with every new set of technology, and AI is the next set of disrupting technology. And in marketing, we know, hold it, let's just talk about this podcast, right? We've got a great podcast that someday will be summarized automatically for you. There won't be a human who summarizes it anymore. There was 2 years ago someone who would summarize it and put summaries out there for social and all that. And now there's a machine that does that. And we don't think about the poor human we used to pay to do that. But fortunately, they got other things to do because we've been behind, and it works out. Maybe we can do more podcasts. We can do more live broadcasts and things like that. So that's what I come down to. Every set of technology does replace a set of tasks, and AI is not going to replace everyone's job. I can guarantee you. And I'll give you lots of examples if you'd like today. But it is going to replace a lot of tasks, mostly tasks that we farmed out offshore years ago, because U.S. companies already decided that I'm going to go for low cost on these. Whether they're better or worse, I don't care, but I need low cost. So they went from $20 an hour to $2 an hour, and now they'll go from $2 an hour, in some cases, to 2 cents an hour equivalent, right? So that's going to be the first impact.
Interesting.
Yeah, without a doubt. And maybe we can shift the conversation a little bit to talking or introducing here the topic of values, maybe the importance of values. As we see AI advancing and new things being created, quite quickly, right? Like not even day to day, but just hour to hour. So Kevin, maybe talk to us a little bit about the risks that come with, say, all this innovation at very fast, paces. When it starts to outpace values, what
Great question.
What's the risk?
So I think you have to look at your company values, both for your employees and for your customers. And one of the things I talk about in my keynotes is that the more AI you use, the more EQ you will need. Let me tell you why. AI makes all of us 170 IQ in almost any topic, any subject, and can do so in a minute. Period. Like I have every answer. Google sort of did that, but maybe took an hour to get to it. Now it takes a minute. So it's an IQ leveling technology. It makes us all wickedly smart. Doesn't give us all the same experience, but makes us all wickedly smart. So we cannot differentiate ourselves on IQ anymore, which means EQ and the value of communication, transparency, integrity, all those values are actually going to be more important. Because otherwise, Stephen could race ahead 100 times faster than he's ever been, leaving everyone else in the firm behind. And that won't work. So if you value your people, you have to actually slow down and say, let's have more communication around what we're doing so that we're all aligned, so that Stephen, I'm picking on Stephen, but so Stephen doesn't get 100 times, Stephen could get a month ahead of everyone in about an hour. And how do you ever close that gap if you're not communicating? So I think the company has to value its people enough and value the communication and value EQ to say, let's boost our EQ around the, emotional quotient around the table so that we're all honoring the communication that's required. Doesn't mean we're all going to agree, but we've got to have the conversation. We got to have many more conversations because all of our IQs are now ridiculously off the chart because we're using this machine.
Yeah. Are we doing a good job of building EQ into the AI?
No. No, but, well, first of all, AI itself has no emotions. All the Gen AI that everybody's using is simply math. That's what's going on. We take words, we convert them to a vector, we convert them to math, we process the math, and in processing the math, we're trying to figure out what word comes after another. In the case of an LLM, because that's the simplest case. And on the other end, we get a word coming after a word coming after a word, based on a distribution of sentences and phrases that have been read by this thing, which is in the trillions, right? That's what we've got. So first of all, people get scared of it or this or that. Don't be scared that it's taking over the world. Don't be scared it's going to eat everyone. It's, it's just word after word after word. Now, how do we create emotion? Well, before they put guideposts on these things, you could actually ask it, are you in love with me? It goes, of course I'm in love with you. Who knows what it'd say, but things like that. And it did that because it also read fiction. And so I don't want to say it understands love, but it understands how to put the sentences together that would mean love to a human, right? Or mean an emotional thing. So any emotion we could talk about when we developed the first virtual assistant, which is in the late 90s, and it was AI. And we had to build in fake emotion because people wanted to interact with it. Her name was Mary, and they wanted to marry Mary, literally. First thing they want to do, talk about conscious capitalism. I'll marry you. And she goes, oh, I can't do that. I'm just a machine or whatever, right? We had all these different responses. And so all of these are programmatic. So today, any emotion you get back out are either it learned it from reading fiction and everything else humans have written, or Scale AI and others have put rules in to say you will respond in this way. And that's a human setting up a rule that says, respond in this way. If someone asks, ChatGPT to marry it, I don't know what it says today, but it might come back and say, I'm sorry, I'm unable to answer that question because I'm just a machine or whatever. Someone programmed that in. This is all programmatic, right? Now, to that extent, you want to get philosophical. Maybe our own emotions are programmatic. Maybe they were programmed in by our parents, our environment, our interactions at work, right? We don't know how we get emotional, but we have real emotions that we feel. This thing can't feel anything, right?
I think we've got algorithms that get programmed at a very early age.
At a very young age.
Yeah,
no question. Because aside from getting hurt, a young child doesn't know like to cry when someone dies. They have no sense that they're supposed to do that. No sense of loss. But over time, by the time they're 3 or 4 or 5, they have that sense of loss. And when someone near them dies, they know it's time to cry. They know it's time to feel that. But they weren't necessarily born with that, which is a fascinating thing.
So I know we talked about this a little bit before the show. Companies having kind of problems implementing AI into their workplace. Are there like systems or policies or frameworks kind of that you see that work best to implement AI, but still be conscious without coming up against some of the resistance that we're seeing?
A couple of things. Number one, aside from your LLM that you probably want to use on a corporate level and have some rules around, most everything else you're going to do with AI or Gen AI is going to be from a company that specializes in that vertical, right? So if you really want to deal with supply chain, you don't use GPT-5. You go to a company, and there may be 20 or 30 of them now, that really specialize in really making Gen AI hum for supply chain. And you could theoretically write all that code, but a great system may have 1 million or 2 million lines of code. You shouldn't. That's not your business, right? You need a system that will better manage your supply chain, leveraging AI, or better managing RFQs or whatever it is. And so you need to go to some custom kind of thing like that. And so I think I highly recommend that every company think of their LLM as something that is, or multimodal, that's something marketing and sales. Everybody can sort of use Copilot. Everybody's using that. That's great. But if you want to achieve real business outcomes, if it's software QA, if it's supply chain, if it's customer support, if it's any, finance, whatever, find companies that specialize in that, do some POCs, and then find what's going to deliver a hard ROI. I want to see real dollars. Like, here's how I save the money. Or here's how I maybe reduce hiring that I thought I was going to have to do as we grow, but I may not have to do, right? So it might not be reducing headcount in all those areas. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is to, at the C level, be absolutely aware, because the stats are clear. We talked about this earlier. 31% of employees,
right?
Yeah, 31% of employees. Just last week, 31% of employees admit anonymously under duress, admit anonymously to sabotaging their AI efforts because they felt it was encroaching on their job, or that it could take their job, or they were scared of it, or they didn't want to change. That's impacting more than 80% of AI rollouts. So I'm the boss. My team comes back to me and says, "Oh, we tried that thing. Yeah, didn't work in customer support at all. It couldn't answer one call. It was all screwed up. It was." So I'll give you an example. And, in one of my companies, we've had some in software QA. We make a technology where AI, I'm going to summarize, AI finds all the bugs before you release, and it finds 10 times more bugs in about an hour or two than humans would find in weeks or months. Period, full stop. It's not an arguable. This is a knowable, lots of data around it. We have gone in to do POCs, and what happens is the C-level exec says, give it to my minions. Give it to the people on the ground that may not even be in the United States. They're somewhere, right? These people come back and say, oh, it doesn't work. So, well, we demonstrated it 7 times, works perfectly, generated all this, and in fact, it generated thousands of tests in an hour, and it worked great. And then they say, it doesn't work. Okay, well, give us the files. What are you doing? We're looking at it. And humans actually put lines in there to break it. Literally opened them up, edited the output, broke them, and say, see, it doesn't work. it tries to type the password twice. So, well, AI can't type the password twice. It already typed it once. It's not how the logic works. No, it did it. No, it didn't. Right. So now I have a problem because I have to go to the C-level exec and say, I know your people are going to say this doesn't work. It does. Here's the videos. We recorded it. It works perfectly. Why are they saying that? Do you want me to be honest with you? And the problem is when you say sabotage or they're lying, and they're doing this to save their jobs, right? We have to be honest about it. I understand what's going on, but you don't really win the business when you say your employees are lying to you either, right? That doesn't get you anywhere. So everyone in the AI world is facing this. And I just say, as an exec that is trying to roll these out, you need to know that your employees are scared, and you need to deal with that up front. You need to say, look, I know you're going to be scared, but we're going to upskill you, right? We're going to try to grow. We need all of you, but we probably need all of you in different roles than you've been doing. We're going to upskill you, or whatever the deal is, right? But you can't go in. I mean, I've literally seen people go in and they're sitting around the table and they go, and the guy goes, and my entire goal is to eliminate this entire team. And they're going,
oh, geez.
I don't think you're going to find success in doing that, right? So,
are we all aligned with this goal?
One person was aligned, two of us. He and I was fine with it, but look, my job is to deliver technology in hopes that you can achieve your goals better and faster, and in hopes that you can keep most of your people engaged in other things. And there's some tasks. If you're a manual tester, and AI does that now, I can tell you this, right? And it's been doing it for a few years. Not in every company, because most companies haven't rolled this out. But in a company that's rolled it out, they don't have manual testers anymore. AI finds the bugs, reports them. The manual tester was just getting his machine set up, right? The manual testers are not doing that task anymore. I don't know what they're doing, if they've been redeployed, if they've been, whatever the case is. So there are tasks that go away, like we talked about. And you need to wrestle within your company. How do we deal with that? Because this actually just isn't about profit. It's actually making a conscious decision to have a better outcome for our customers. Because if our customers are using our software, for example, and they're finding 100 bugs a day, and AI could have found those bugs and people can't, I should use the AI to put out a better product for my customers. That's a legitimate business goal, right?
Right.
So I'm doing what's right for my customers, but I've taken some humans out of the equation, and everyone's going to have to wrestle with this over the coming years.
Yeah, you said so. Oh, go ahead, Steve.
I was just going to say, sometimes you'll be able to 10x yourself with AI, but sometimes it's like I need to reposition myself or what I do.
Absolutely.
It's
upskill. The days are here, right? Okay, example. Let's say, and you're in marketing, you know this, you would go outside just a few years ago and say, if you were involved in this part, right? Hey, I need a blog post on this technique, technology, company, whatever. Write one this week. I'll get you another one for that. I used to pay $1,500 a blog post, and we'd go back and forth, and it'd take a week or two, and I'd get it done. And it was good. It wasn't perfect, but it was good. I had to edit it. You know the deal, right? I don't pay $1,500 a blog post anymore, because I can have a blog post in 5 minutes that I've queued up. I mean, I've probably written 2 or 3 paragraphs. Like, I had to really think thoughtfully about what I was putting in there, and then what I get out and what I edit. But still, in 5 or 10 minutes, I'm done with the task. And so if I was a independent blog post writer, I might want to upskill myself in some way, right? I may want to be as I say, you might want to be the robot overlord, because people will pay you if you're the robot. Or if you are using AI to the nth degree, people are going to pay you a lot. And if you walk in and say, I'm applying for this job, but I've never used AI, probably not getting hired, right? So that's true with college grads today. We've got college grads coming out going, yeah, I haven't really used AI, played with it a little bit. And others saying, I got these 10 tools you've never heard of, and I'm going to bring them here. Who gets hired?
I don't envy the college student these days in the middle of a major, and all this major shifts are going on. Mike, go ahead. You're about to ask something.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, Kevin said a lot, there in terms of when he was going through the example of the QA. I mean, we think about like conscious capitalism. I mean, we don't want less QA, right? We want more QA. If there's going to be an autonomous vehicle on the road, we absolutely want to make sure that every line of that
way more QA,
right? Way more QA, and
yeah.
and then on top of it, which is also, I get it, one of the key pillars of conscious capitalism is, as a key stakeholder, it's your employees, right? So they should be part of the conversation. There was a tool we used with a fairly good amount of success whenever we wanted to introduce something. And we used to refer to it as the hassle list. And we would talk to our team members like, what are the things that every day you come in and you do that you dread doing, right? And we would build this whole list of and it became our tick list for a quarter. It was like, okay, we need to get rid of these hassles in order to make life better. And sure enough, in certain cases, automation was the answer to some of those hassles. And they were, I'm totally down with getting rid of this. I never want to come back into the office and have to do X. All right, let's get rid of that for you. And so that was a tool that was fairly, helpful to us.
And by the way, that's a great tool. And by the way, if we were still doing most software QA in the United States, for example, that would still be the tool we'd use, because our QA people in the US are generally highly educated and do many, many, many things. So writing scripts or manual testing is a small portion of their job, and it's the one they don't want to do. Right. And often they're all even developers. So they're developing, then they've got to do some end-to-end testing. They got a unit testing. They don't want to do that stuff anyway. They can't wait to automate it. But what happened is, over the last 20 years, we shed just one thing, this low level task, and shed it offshore, generally to offshore system integrators and QA offshorers, right? And so they have literally thousands, it's actually about 2.5 million people doing nothing but the one task every day that was the lowest level task that the US companies shed. The US companies kept all the other tasks, they shed that one. Yeah. And so these poor folk only do this, and they feed their family doing this. Yeah. And they're in India, or they're in Vietnam, or wherever they are, right? And so you can imagine seeing AI come in, write 1,000 tests in an hour, run them and give the result, and find bugs they've never found over the last 3 years. And they're real. What do? You go, but I only know one thing in life. I actually don't know everything about QA. I'm not that person. I just write these scripts right here. It's all I do all day. So again, if this was the US, they couldn't wait to shed that, but they did shed it. They shed it overseas. And so most of these jobs that are going to be impacted are offshore, because those are the lower level tasks we had shed. Yeah. And that's not fair to them either. They're trying to get from a third world country to a better country and a better life and I get that.
It's tough because
it makes sense. And I think of this too. A lot of our economy is run by small businesses. And another aspect I think of AI is it allows those organizations to, punch above their weight class, where they maybe, couldn't do that before. So,
hey, we're talking about potentially, look, I can guarantee you this, the person is alive who will build a one-person company plus AI and agents. The person is alive who will build a one-person company that's worth more than $10 billion. That may happen in the next year, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Yeah. The person is alive who will do that. One person will build a $10 billion juggernaut. And you go, how can it be? They're going to leverage AI to do virtually everything. That's not right or wrong. It just is. People use the technology for what it is, and it's interesting.
Yeah, but if you're a solopreneur, this is like the golden age for you, I think.
It's the golden age for you.
Very much so. Very
and of course, their consciousness is different. They want to work solo. They like working solo. They've probably been a hermit for much of their life. So it's perfect for them. It's very conscious for them, right?
Yeah.
But I think we do have to be conscious of employees and in all kinds of things. We haven't talked about it, but bias in these models is standard because humans put all the data in that they learn from, right? And so models tend to have bias, and they tend to come right down the center unless you tell them otherwise. And so we have to be cautious about that, because we have employees from all different backgrounds. And we, like I say, you don't want the model that when you ask it to, draw a human, always draws a 6'2", a blonde woman walking down a runway, right? I understand why the model thinks that's all that exists, but that's not how life works.
I've had ChatGPT try and, hey, draw a picture of me myself, and then I always come back like this model. This is not me. As much as I'd like to be, this smoldering looking lumberjack type guy out there.
It makes better versions of ourselves, but they're not accurate pictures.
Quit lying to me.
The problem. Yeah, it is.
Now you're hallucinating.
Yeah, your sycophant tendencies are.
Let's talk about conscious capitalism in another way with AI, and plus we can talk about Joyce Success Talk in a minute too, maybe.
Yeah.
But I was recently presenting to a group of musicians and educators, and because you'll see some awards behind me because I'm involved in music and Broadway and a bunch of other things and film, and so I showed them the absolute state of the art of creating a new musical and creating the big "I Want" song for the lead in the musical. And I did it all with AI, and right in front of them in just minutes, I created a song that I can tell you is absolutely indistinguishable from real. And the recording is perfect, and the mastering's perfect, and the mixing's perfect, and the orchestration's perfect, and the singer's perfect, right? Not so perfect, though, that you think it's AI, because it's got all the aberrations that a human would have, because that's what it learned from. Okay. So I'm playing it to this whole room, right? I make them listen to the 4 minutes of the outcome. Two sides of the room. One side says, how fast can I use these tools? They're all musicians, right? How fast can I use them? Because this is going to accelerate everything I do. I can still do it in a pencil if I want, or do it in Finale or Sibelius, but it's going to accelerate my life. The other half was nearly screaming at me, going, this is blasphemy. How many years I took to learn my instrument and learn this technique and learn music theory, and this thing just does it for you. It isn't fair.
It's crazy. So you see this is the dark night of the soul, of just seeing suddenly you've got this crisis within you, like, oh my gosh, what just happened? It did this, and you're fighting it. And the other half sees it as, oh, I can't wait to have a jazz session with AI, and
exactly.
let's dance and see what we can come up with from our art together in that way. So and you see that all the time, and I understand it's so painful for some people, and but you do see the other people who are like, hey, this is probably the next thing, and let's have a jazz session.
That's the difference between a true creator.
All the creators eventually use the latest tools. Did you notice that? Like, a few get left behind and everyone else uses them. So I look at it as a collaboration tool. But what's important, like when we're writing a musical now, and I'm leveraging AI because I'm in the middle of doing this right now. First of all, this is important for your listeners. What happens is I have to instantiate everything. It didn't do anything. It just sits there going, what do you want me to do, Kevin? Right? Say, I want a musical, and I want this many scenes, and I want the scenes to do this, and I want the story arc to be this, and I want these characters. So I'm seeding the entire thing. And then say, give me a draft. And what I get is, okay, it's kind of blah. And then I start to go to work, and I say, all right, in scene one, what I really want to do is dive into this problem. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so what's happened is I am still truly the driver behind what's happening, but I'm not writing every single word like an English professor, right? Or a MFA in theater or something. I don't have to write every word. It will write the words for me, but I'm taking what's here and putting it there, and writing the words no longer is the stopper, right? Because I can get it to rewrite that scene 20 times in the next 20 minutes. And this is incredibly powerful. Then I can try out 20 demos of 20 songs that go in that scene and decide this is the one that's leading me down the right path. Let me tune that some more. This is amazing. That process should take 6 months, and I can probably do it in an hour. This is game-changing, game-changing. But consciousness, I have to honor the fact that musicians and writers may have spent much of a lifetime getting to be as good as this machine is right now. And that's horrifying to them.
Yeah. Kevin, maybe one topic we'd love to, shifting gears a little bit, we love to talk about on the show is purpose, right? And so I'd like to ask all of our guests a question about purpose. So maybe if you could just give us a snippet of what is the importance of having a well-defined purpose? And then in the work that you're doing, what's kind of the deeper purpose behind it?
Well, my upcoming book, which is not out yet, called The Joy Success Cycle, we actually have a whole section talking about purpose. And the reason is the premise of the book is that joy and success are tied together. And you need to approach every task during the day as a moment of joy. Now, as humans, we don't typically do that. In fact, we look at everything as, oh, I'm thirsty. Oh, my knees hurt. Oh, this sucks. Oh, I got to do another podcast. All right, whatever, right? Oh, this business. Oh. And we do that naturally as humans, probably because our ancestors, which is the reason that all of us are here, were scared that the lion was going to eat them, right? So everything was worry, and complain. Well, today the lion's probably not going to eat you, and there's unlimited food at the store behind you. And so we don't need to worry about those things. And when you take that off the table and you say, I can't complain every minute, instead, I have to take everything on my to-do list and say, what's the joy moment I get from this? Okay, so that's the background of some of the book. The core of this is that it starts with a sense of purpose. You can't find joy in every moment without a sense of purpose. And your sense of purpose can be many things, right? We'll talk about it in a second. But without a sense of purpose, you can't find joy in every moment. If you don't find joy in every moment, you won't be successful, period, full stop. Yes, there are examples, because there's a bell curve of people who were incredibly successful and were ogres and had no joy and maybe even ended their life short, right? I mean, all kinds of terrible things, right? But nevertheless, if you want to be right there to have your best chance of success, it starts with a sense of purpose.
Yeah.
So a sense of purpose might be conscious capitalism. It might be just your employees. It literally, that could be your sense of purpose. I want to build a company that's all about the employees, and I want it to be successful, but it doesn't have to be successful at the risk of hurting my employees. Great. It might be that you want to change the world in some way. It might be that you want to invent something new. It may be your entire sense of purpose is I want to make a bunch of money. Everybody's got a different. It could be religion. It could be family. It could be a lot of things. But you got to be grounded in something. Otherwise, how do you even get up every day?
Yeah, why even get up, right? If you're not finding joy.
I have no sense of purpose. Therefore, I can't find joy. How can you find joy when you go, I'm just wandering through life. All I do is play video games, and I play them terribly, so I can't even get on Twitch and make money. You know, I mean, you got nothing. I just stop, right? So please stop and find a sense of purpose. Again, it can be for your employees. It can be for your family. It can be for religion. Just find it, and then you move on and say, joy. How do I find joy in everything I do? And I'll give you one hint from the book, which is something I live by. I get one complaint a day, and I live by that rule. Now, here's what's interesting. Most humans, if you count them up tomorrow, all of you listening, all of you on this podcast, you are going to get to 50, 80, 100 complaints a day. 100 complaints a day, internal or external. You don't voice all of them. Some of you will voice all of them. My mom probably voices all of them, but most people don't voice all of them. So there's the funny bit. Remember, I had to be funny in this episode. I got one in. I got a funny. So my mom won't think it's funny though. So the thing is limit yourself to one a day, which is gamification of this. Because if you're complaining all the time, you can't stop to find your moments of joy. Mm-hmm. So you got to stop complaining because they're joy killers. So this is what's fun. You get up in the morning and normally go, oh, I worked out my knees hurt.
You're done for the day.
You're done for the day. So all of a sudden now you start getting up. You go, no, not going to complain about anything. Why? I can't use up my one complaint. I got to save it because I might need it later in the day.
I like this so much. Especially, absolutely. This morning I'm getting up and I'm like, oh, be careful. You don't want to, you start your day like that, but it's like, we all do, right? Hey,
well, I don't now, but yes, we all naturally do.
It's that it's that natural reaction that we just have, like you said.
That's right. When you it's raining. Oh, I can't do this. Oh, this person called. Oh, look at that text. Oh, woe is me. Just stop. Change the entire conversation with yourself. And it turns out you control that conversation. No matter what text comes in and how bad it is, you control how you respond to it. Customer says, I'm leaving you, and it's the biggest customer. In fact, there's a joy moment there. Here's the joy moment. Biggest customer, right? You say, okay, what can I learn from this? How can I switch them around? How can we have a great conversation? Maybe I want to fly out there and get to know them better. There's all kinds of joy that can come from this. And even if they leave, you're going to learn a lot from it and say, we learned so much that will never happen again. Right?
Yeah. Kevin, this brings me to our question that we always ask our guests on here is, because I think you kind of transitioned to it in a way here, is what role does love play in business?
Well, that's a great question. So it depends on what you love. Look, I would tell you a lot of C-level execs love themselves, and I don't think that's going to have the best outcome, right? And you know what I mean, all right? And you see it in everything they do, and it's all about themselves. And that's not to say you're supposed to hate yourself, but that is just not going to lead to success, right? And we talk about this in the book as well. And so, what is it that you love? Do you love your employees? I love my employees. And yes, I know that there's always some employee and they're not cutting it, and there's always issues there, and you're working with them, and maybe you work them to stay. Maybe the joy is in letting them go so that they can find a better
sharing them with someone else.
Yes, we all have to do this, but I really, really love the people I work with, or else I wouldn't have hired them. And I care about them, and I care about their families. And you know what's important about that is when it's time to march over that hill into the enemy fire, they follow you because they see that you've loved them all the way through, that you really care about them, right? And so they'll march over the hill with you. And otherwise, they don't do it. So you want to be that leader where your entire team marches over the hill with you because you've earned that, because you've loved and cared for them for, the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a beautiful thing. Kevin, for our listeners that want to learn a little bit more about you or, connect with you, where would you like them to go?
KevinSurace.com. That's the easiest way. Just go to my website. My LinkedIn is there, and I publish on LinkedIn once or twice every day, something interesting, a lot about the Joy Success Cycle, a lot about AI impacting jobs and impacting your work, a lot about, suggesting to everybody, get ahead of AI, be the robot overlord, and you will win.
Thanks, Kevin, for joining us today. Thank you to our audience. And Kevin, I'm gonna remember that the more AI you use, the more EQ you need.
That is true.
Yep. Thanks, everyone. This has been a great conversation. If you think this is can help someone near and dear to you, please share it with them. And we'll see you next time on the Bliss Business Podcast.